toughest man in the mixed martial artist, holding professional record, 20 wins, 2 losses, standing 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing in at 170 pounds. Fighting out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, ladies and gentlemen, presenting the reigning, defending UFC welterweight champion of the world, George Rush St. Pierre!
My name is Ayman Zahabi, and my current record is 7-2, and I'm fighting at a TriStar gym in Montreal. I put my older brothers in karate when they were really young, and then when the first UFC was coming out, we used to go watch it at my cousin's house, like on like a pay-per-view box, like you know those illegal boxes. We didn't have the money back in the day, and we were shocked. For us, was shocked that Royce Gracie won the first UFC, and then when the second UFC came out, still then we hadn't done any jiu-jitsu. But when they were promoting that, you know, Ken Shamrock's gonna be in there, and we saw this super big muscular guy, we thought for sure he was gonna beat Royce Gracie, and then Royce Gracie beat him, and then that's when Faraz started looking for a jiu-jitsu instructor. And I started as like it started off as a kickboxing school. Conrad Pla, which is one of my kickboxing trainers, him and 2 other guys started TriStar in 1991. So it was already an established striking gym, and it was in a different location than it is today. And then he sold it to one of his friends who was like a boxing student, someone who was into boxing, and they turned it into like more of a martial arts gym, and they started taking in other kinds of martial arts. And then my brother started coming here when Angelo Xerahakos was teaching here jiu-jitsu. And at the time, he was only a purple belt under Renzo Gracie. So that was the highest belt we had in Montreal, was a purple belt. Okay? We didn't have any Canadian black belts in all of Canada at the time. And the only first black belts that were here were like Brazilians like Wagner Fabiano and stuff that would come visit for a bit or whatever. So we were learning, Faraz, was learning under a purple belt. And then his trainer ended up being a very successful businessman, and he stopped coming to the gym more and more often. So Faraz was like his best technical student at the time. And so Faraz took charge of teaching the classes when Angelo wasn't there. And then Faraz started becoming like the instructor of everyone, but at the time he was just a blue belt. A lot of trial and error. It took a lot of time for us to get good, but eventually Faraz and George St. Pierre teamed up, and then George started going down to learn from John Danaher. And we started learning jiu-jitsu from Danaher and Renzo's team, the Renzo Gracie Academy in New York, from Danaher especially, through George. So George would drive down there like once every couple of months, learn a few techniques, bring them back, then we would drill them and try to master them, and then Faraz would teach him to the group, and then Faraz started getting such a huge following in Montreal that eventually he bought out the gym.
Hello, my name is Olivier Aubin-Mercier. I fought for the UFC for 5 years, I think, and I do not know my record. Young and kindergarten, my parents always told me that I was the kind of kid that every other kid would come at them to tell them that I was always fighting. So I guess I liked fighting when I was really young. Personally, I don't really look forward to the fight. Like, I don't care. I do sparring every week at TriStar. So, like for me to fight is the same thing at TriStar or in front of everybody. But the thing is, in front of everybody, if you lose, people are shaming you.
Hey guys, my name is Luisa. I'm 8-1. I fight out of TriStar Gym in Montreal, Canada, and I'm currently signed to Brave Combat Federation. I like to read a lot, But other than that, I wasn't really super focused in school. I like to go out with my friends and cause some trouble. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was like when I was a kid.
Where did you discover MMA?
I discovered MMA, my friend wanted to try it out. I played a bit of basketball, but I was always kind of too short, so I never was quite good enough. But I always wanted to do sports. I was always very athletic. I had naturally good balance, but I never really found a sport that I liked that much. And as a matter of fact, when I first came to TriStar Gym, it was my friend who recommended it. And I had no interest in MMA. I just wanted to do kickboxing. I didn't really have an interest in the grappling aspect of it all. I was a bit of a germaphobe. But I met Faraz. He was on the treadmill, and he convinced me to try out the classes, and I stuck to it ever since.
How nervous were you before your first fight?
I was super nervous. I was praying the whole building would collapse and I wouldn't have to do it. I was looking at my friends from the gym, and I was like, how important are these friendships to me? What if I just bail out right now? Is it super, super, super important to be around these guys for the rest of my life? I don't know.
And then when you made that walk, when did you know, okay, I'm all right?
Yeah, once you step in the ring, it's all history. It's all the same. It's nothing. You want to be in there, obviously. It's fear of the unknown, right? And that's all it is. And that's in everything in life, in any kind of performance, whether I'm sure actors go through the same thing. Obviously the stakes are maybe a little bit higher because you're getting punched, kicked, and elbowed. But for the most part, I think performing is always a difficult task. But you just gotta, just kind of put that to the side. And usually you do, right? Most people do who perform at these levels.
Hi, I'm Oliver Taza. I train out of TriStar Gym here in Montreal. I competed at events like ADCC, Polaris, EBI, gi, no gi, pretty much every rule set there is. I was playing a lot of soccer, football, and we have a famous fighter called George St. Pierre. Not sure if you guys are familiar with this name, but yeah, that's it. I wanted to take a little break, try something else, and I started here at TriStar. Jiu-Jitsu is a martial art, so you kind of have to, your values have to be in line with a martial artist, like patience. You gotta value hard work, you gotta be consistent, you gotta come into the gym and work hard no matter what's happening outside in your life. Sacrifices, obviously you can't be out partying if you're preparing for a big competition. You can't be out eating junk food when you want to be in the best shape possible. So these are the things you gotta keep in mind. Also, for jiu-jitsu athletes in general, income comes mostly from teaching. Spreading the game, helping people get better. So giving back is also something you have to do when you're training Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Otherwise, you will not be able to make a living from it, in my opinion. Simply making money from competitions is very, very difficult. There are a lot of organizations now. It's getting better. A lot of organizations are paying, but it's not to the point where you can make a healthy, sustainable living from it.
Pierre-Olivier Leclerc, and I train out of TriStar Gym in Montreal. So I'm a purple belt under Faraz Zahabi. Yeah, definitely. I like the feeling of competing. The first time I competed, obviously, was a small local event, but going and compete, even if it's in front of a bit of people, at first, there's so much at stake in your opinion at that moment that it's really fun to do it. Now, having done Kasai, in front of a lot of people, and having done big events, I feel like the crowd, and when there's something at stake, it just it pumps you. You want to get there and you want to be the best at that moment. And the nerves, they just as much as I hate them sometimes, they do good stuff too. And after once you win or sometimes you lose, after the feeling is always fulfilling, because you went through a battle against yourself, and then you have to get there. Obviously, it's not like MMA where I'm not getting punched in the face, so the consequences are not as bad, but there's still you care so much about winning and about getting and being the best.
My name is Zack. I'm 20 and 9. I've been Bellator champion, fought in the UFC, fought overseas for ACB, and currently free agent. The Bellator gave me a fight, like a qualifying fight essentially, and if I performed well or they liked me in that fight, they would put me in the tournament. And did good in that fight, won that fight by submission, and then they put me in the tournament. Ended up winning the tournament. It was 3 fights in 6 weeks. Yeah, that was like the first huge step of my career, winning that title. Maybe even still the biggest accomplishment I've had.
What does it feel like to win an MMA fight for people who don't know?
It's a pretty hard question to answer. I mean, it's just like there's a satisfaction to it. The most prominent emotion I have after a fight is relief, because you put a lot into this one competition. Generally, you train for a couple months for one competition. You only get a couple competitions per year if you're lucky, and it's just so much that goes into it. So much thinking about this one event, and it can be pretty stressful. So as soon as it's over, there's like this sense of relief. But when you win, there's like this sense of satisfaction and like validation that you're developing your skill level, you're performing in a way that is good, that you want to continue to develop. And it's just like taking one more good step up the mountain. But every step you take a big step up, you can kind of look around, see the view, and appreciate where you were so far. Yeah, so like very few, I think, of the MMA guys make a substantial living. Most of you, even in the UFC, are just kind of able to live off of their career, which is great. I prefer that to getting a more typical kind of job, making more money. I think it is pretty special to be amongst the top of your sport, to be a professional athlete. Not a lot of people get this chance, and I'm trying to make it last as long as I can. But I have advantages too. It affords me a lot. I have a lot more free time than I think a lot of people that work 5 days a week, 9 to 5. I can adjust my training schedule when I want. I could if I had the money, I could take a vacation when I wanted to. So there's advantages and disadvantages, but it's not going to last forever. And that's why I'm just trying to make the most of the time I got. Hopefully squeeze a couple years left.
Ivan Menjivar, he's also a UFC veteran, fought a lot of huge names, fought all over the world, Japan, Asia, everywhere across the world. And he actually had a fight at 170 against George St. Pierre. I don't know if it was, I think it may have been George's first fight.
Yeah, TKO?
Yeah, TKO, but I don't know if it was George's first fight or second fight, but anyways, he fought Ivan Menjivar, and Ivan Menjivar, as you know, ended his career at 135. So he's not a huge guy. But at the time, there was not many fighters at 135, so he was fighting at 170, even though he was small. And if you watch the fight, I suggest you to go watch it. Ivan was doing fantastic, okay? Like, I'm not taking anything away from George, but Ivan was doing a really good job for being such a smaller guy. And I think that the way Ivan lost was kind of a confusion between the ref questioning him and Ivan not speaking English or French too well at the time. And the referee thought he said he quit, but he said, no, I want to keep going. And it was, anyways, George was so impressed by how good Ivan fought him. And because he was so much smaller, he came to TriStar looking for Faraz to help train him, because he was surprised that such a smaller guy can do so good against him, against George St. Pierre. Rory, you know, is different than George in the sense that he started fighting professionally at 16. George was training since he was 5-6 years old in karate. But Rory came up with MMA. Like he's part of that first wave of kids who wanted to fight MMA. And he's been doing it for so long, and he's got so much experience in the ring, fighting older men when he was young and going through so many wars, that he is the embodiment of someone who's MMA.